Hey, it's Quadix here. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe, comment Q or any other comments you may have. The link to the Discord and my Instagram will be in the description. Check them out. When this video gets to 500 likes, I'll upload the next part. Roll the intro. Okay, this is just in case you're new, because all the people from the main channel should know what's going on. I will leave a link in the description to all the other series I've done and all of the parts from the beginning, because this is part 45. And just in case you're like confused, like, why is he starting at 5:45? I've done 44 other parts on my other channels, and I'll leave the link to that in the description. Let's get into it. One thing Naruto noticed was the rookies and their senseis mostly stayed together in close radius. Most probably the sensei's way of giving them all some sort of comfort. Now that Naruto stood at the gates of Konoha, he reflected on the past week and all that happened as he about to remark on his first S-rank mission. Each day, something new and strange happened. Either way, boredom was avoided and excitement was maintained. Flashback, Tuesday. All the Genin teams, along with their senseis, were standing in the Hokage's office, waiting for their orders. Naruto found it strange that Kakashi had himself came to wake him up at 6 o'clock in the morning. He had told him to get ready and meet him at the entrance to the Hokage Tower in 15 minutes. He had disappeared after that. Since it was morning and Naruto had figured that everyone would be resting considering what had happened yesterday, it took a few seconds for him to register Kakashi's message, and he found several disturbances. First, he had never ever seen Kakashi this early in the morning. The man had a knack for being late to almost everything. He would always tell them to report at the training ground around 5 or 6 in the morning, but he would keep them waiting for a grand total of 3 hours every time. Second, Kakashi never told them to hurry up with anything. In fact, the longer they took to complete a mission, the better. Mostly because he wanted to read his book, but it also might be because of the man's lazy attitude in general. Naruto had almost believed that the man was someone who was impersonating Kakashi, until Kurama pointed out that it was possible for a shinobi to impersonate it was impossible for a shinobi to impersonate the chakra signature of another shinobi. Naruto had reluctantly considered it to that point and had gotten dressed as usual. He proceeded to the destination via rooftops, noting grimly the amount of destruction the invading armies had caused, even though Konoha had won in the end. As the towers came into view, he was surprised to note that all the rookie teams were standing there as well, along with their senseis. As he landed before them, all the attention was turned to him. Naruto shifted self-consciously at how all of them were looking at him, as if he was someone else entirely. Deciding to save himself the awkwardness, he greeted them. "Yo, what's up?" That was all that came out of his mouth. He really didn't have much to say. Honestly, the first one to react was Shikamaru. "What a drag. He's way too chippery for the morning," he muttered, slumped as usual. Naruto shrugged the comment aside and looked for any sign of his teammates. There was none. Approaching Asuma, he asked, Asuma sensei, have you seen Kakashi sensei around? He came around to wake me up, which is kinda strange for him. Asuma took a drag of his cigarette and blew it out, saying, "I did see Kakashi a while ago. Don't worry, Naruto. We're assembled due to the Hokage's orders. He has to show up. Hokage personally threatened him with his book collection if he did not." Naruto whistled in appreciation. Not every day the copy ninja with his book collection. What? Never mind. He went to stand beside Choji, who was looking more cheerful than his friends. Leaning against the wall, he waited for his team. Choji pushed a bag of potato chips towards Naruto. "Yo, Naruto, want some?" Naruto smiled. "Don't mind if I do." His friend had an unusually big heart. To Naruto's irritation, it took Kakashi 15 more minutes to arrive, and he was the only one who was looking annoyed. The man had the nerve to walk towards them without a care in the world. Kurenai flashed a look of annoyance to him. "Really, Kakashi? Keeping the Hokage waiting again?" Kakashi did not look ruffled in the slightest. "Relax, Kurenai. We still have a full 2 minutes to report to him. Naruto looked over to his teammates. Sakura looked as if she had literally been dragged out of bed, while Sasuke looked a bit more composed. The small twitches of his eyebrow gave away his irritation, though. He looked at Naruto with an expression he couldn't fully describe, but a sense of foreboding filled his body. He did not like that. The rookie teams then entered the Hokage tower together, scaling the stairs in awkward silence. They really just made it in time for their meeting. Gigi was sitting in his chair, looking not one bit sleepy and cranky. In fact, he looked like he just looked when he did on a regular duty days. He was, as usual, working on some paperwork, all the getting filed into one line, with their sensei standing behind them, waiting for the aged leader to speak. Hiruzen looked over to them from beneath his hat with serious eyes. He seemed to be evaluating them as his eyes passed from each getting to another. Everyone except Sasuke shifted uncomfortably at his stare. When his eyes landed on Naruto, Naruto just gave him a look of curiosity, silently asking the question, "What's going on?" Team 7, Team 8, Team 9, and Team 10, he addressed in his old but powerful voice. "I have called you here to address the issue at hand. As you have already seen on the way to here, Konoha has suffered many damages in various parts of the village. Therefore, we need all the shinobi available, here and out in the field, to protect and rebuild Konoha in its delicate position. Therefore, from today on, you won't be doing any missions at all. All of you will be joining the construction duty, resuming missions only when I see fit. I have already told your senseis on what to do. Any questions?" Everyone shook their heads, so the Hokage dismissed them. As they exited the towers to go to their workplaces, the genin began chatting amongst themselves. Now that the oppressive aura of the Hokage had been lifted, it came no surprise to Naruto that Ino was the first one to start talking. "Why is Hokage-sama giving us construction work? We don't know the first thing about it." She put her arms up. Naruto sighed and answered, if only to shut her up. "That's why we have D-rank missions, Ino. Also, we won't be working by ourselves. Our senseis will be giving us orders in a way that we can follow without getting confused. Lastly, the village needs to be rebuilt, as you can clearly see." Ino frowned and was about to say something when Shikamaru spoke with a raised eyebrow. "Oi, Naruto, you were fighting Gaara in the forest yesterday, right?" And just like that, all of the tension was just shifted onto their talk. Ino asked in confusion, "Did you hit your head or something, Shikamaru?" Naruto was fighting Gaara in the stadium, not in the forest. Naruto spoke on behalf of Shikamaru. "You may not believe it because you were caught in the genjutsu, Ino, but Gaara was a part of the invasion force. For some reason, he was about to retreat with his siblings, but Sasuke managed to catch up to him. I was fighting somewhere else." He deliberately avoided mentioning that he was the one who fought and defeated Gaara because frankly, he didn't want to be subjected to her endless questioning. Her reputation as the gossip queen of Konoha made him wary of her. Plus, by mentioning that Sasuke was the one who fought Gaara, she would likely turn her attention onto him. As he predicted, Ino turned to a scowling Sasuke with stars in her eyes. "So you really did defeat Gaara, Sasuke-kun? I didn't have a single doubt." Naruto refrained from smirking as Ino began to pester the details out of Sasuke. Sakura jumped into the conversation as well, not liking how close Ino was being to her, Sasuke-kun. "Back off, Ino pig! Stop laying onto Sasuke, and besides, what do you mean that Sasuke-kun defeated Gaara?" Now, this question attracted everyone's attention. The Jonin senseis were watching carefully, ready to intervene in case dangerous information were about to leak out. They all knew who really defeated Gaara, as they were informed by the Hokage last night when he had called them to discuss what to do today. All the Jonin had questions as how the Jinchuriki of the Sand was stopped. Jinchuriki were, after all, beings that contained immense power, and there were very few who could claim to defeat them, especially when they were fully in sync with his or her Biju. The Hokage had given them a full report of what had told him when he summoned the boy into his office yesterday at separate time than the Jonin. Yeah, the grammar is like kind of bad in this chapter, I'm sorry. After the report, heavy shock had settled up all of the Jonin. To think that Uzumaki Naruto defeated the one-tailed Jinchuriki without resorting to his own-tailed beast power was staggering. And not only that, but he had been instrumental in stopping the Snake Sanin, who was here to kill the Hokage. The quality of the information was staggering. Shocked mutters and even a few protests and denials had broken out, saying that it would be impossible to achieve 2 feats such as those on the same day. However, everyone had shut up when the Hokage's killing intent rose up. Hiruzen had thundered that they dare question the word of their Hokage. Safe to say, everyone had accepted the information with varying amounts of shock. The boy had done feats that would be impossible for almost every jonin there was. The Hokage had then given them orders on what was to be done the next day and warned them that the information was to be strictly kept amongst themselves. Not even a whisper was about to be let out, or they would be severely punished. Back to the conversation, Sakura was frowning at Ino's statements. She knew her teammates, and while she still had a huge crush on Sasuke, she did not allow that to cloud her judgment. She had seen Gaara fight, and she had seen Naruto fight. She also seen a bit of how Sasuke fought Gaara before she was knocked unconscious by the giant claw of sand. His speed seemed to have increased very much, and he had a deadly ninjutsu. His hand seemed to crackle in lightning, but she could say very confidently that Sasuke could not defeat Gaara or Naruto. When she had woken up, Sasuke had told her that he had managed to escape with her only when Naruto had arrived, so the logical conclusion should be that Naruto defeated Gaara. Ino glared at Sakura. I mean, exactly what I said, forehead. Do you mean to imply that Sasuke did not defeat Gaara? Just as Sakura was about to reply in affirmative, Kakashi butted in, much to Naruto's relief. Alright, we're here. I'm assigning you your places now, so that we won't waste time when the workers get here. We'll start by ourselves until then. So Sakura, you will help over. And like that, the conversation was avoided for the day. All the teams had dispersed to different places in the square, and as the day progressed, the entire discussion had been forgotten. Wednesday. The day before was spent quite fruitfully with all the work they had done. Today were to continue where they had left off. As Naruto lifted another of the wooden planks, he was approached by Sasuke, who had his hands in his pockets, trying to look as cool as he would while being covered in dirt and grime. What's up, Sasuke? Sasuke frowned at him and simply said, we need to talk. Naruto looked confused for a moment, but when Sasuke raised an eyebrow, he immediately understood. Sasuke wanted to talk to him about why he let Gaara go. Nodding, he placed the plank on its place and turned to him. You want to have a talk now? Sasuke nodded. He had been thinking on the question for a while. He knew that Naruto loved his village, but for him to show such sympathy to his enemy was rare, to the point that Sasuke had never seen before. Naruto turned and walked to where Kakashi was doing his own work. Seeing his students approach him, Kakashi paused, raising an eyebrow in silent questioning. Naruto said, me and Sasuke are taking a break. There is something we need to talk about. Kakashi shook his head. You can't just leave in the middle of work like this, Naruto. The village needs to be rebuilt as soon as possible, so it's for the best if you and Sasuke save your talk aside for later. Naruto just gave him a deadpan and created 2 shadow clones. Pointing towards them, he said, those 2 will substitute for us. I hope that's not a problem now. Please excuse us. He didn't give Kakashi any time to reply, nor did he give Sasuke any time to brace himself. He just grabbed Sasuke and flashed away, leaving Kakashi blinking stupidly at their abrupt departure. The 2 clones took Naruto and Sasuke's place and resumed the physical labor. Kakashi just had one thought. It must be pretty serious if they had to go like that. Naruto and Sasuke appeared on top of the Yondame's head. Sasuke almost staggered and fell right over the spike of Naruto hadn't caught him in time. He turned around to tear into the blonde, but surprisingly no one was there. He turned further to see that he was standing on the edge of the spike, looking over the bustling village. It's kinda beautiful, isn't it? Naruto's tone was soft, and Sasuke could not help but detect that there was a hint of longingness. Before he could think about it further, Naruto continued. The village is like a whole family, taking care of each other. The Hokage is like the head of the family, ensuring that there is no disputes. It must be nice, being a part of a family that is. Sasuke only looked at his teammate in confusion. Naruto's tone indicated that he was detached from the village, something that Sasuke never sensed from the blonde. Sure, he acted quite aloof and indifferent, if only to piss people off. But from the day he had introduced themselves to Kakashi, Sasuke had only seen a strong determination in his eyes. Determination to make his dreams come true. Naruto had made his ultimate mission to become the Hokage of Konoha, but there was something that Sasuke was missing over here. He said something else beside wanting to become Hokage, to make others acknowledge him. That was something that triggered another memory for Sasuke. The word acknowledge made him remember his fight with Gaara. Gaara had repeatedly proclaimed that by killing others, he would prove his existence. Wasn't proving your existence the same thing as making others acknowledge you? Sasuke was getting pieces of something, but still lacked the material to make out what that something was. Where are you going with this? Naruto turned to him with a smile. You still don't see it. Sasuke frowned, trying to see where Naruto was leading him, but came up with nothing. Naruto chuckled. This is part of the answer to your question, Sasuke. Gaara and I, you could say, we're almost like brothers. Sasuke's head whipped up at that. He then suddenly remembered his thoughts during Naruto's fight with Gaara. Gaara's chakra was crushingly malicious, and Sasuke remembered that he had felt a similar chakra of Naruto during their fight with Haku. Is it your chakra? Naruto's eyes showed confusion. My chakra? Sasuke elaborated. When I was fighting Gaara, his chakra was full of malice, killing, and I had sensed a similar chakra from you back in the wave. Is it why you say you were like brothers? Naruto chewed on his lips as he thought of an answer. That is part of why, said Dad. The reason why I let them go is because Gaara reminded me of myself. Sasuke's eyes went wide at that. He had a hard time imagining the usually cheerful but aloof blonde acting like Gaara. There was no way Naruto could be anything like Gaara. Unknowing of Sasuke's thoughts, Naruto continued. He and I share a great burden, and because of that burden, we both have lived our lives as if we were separated from our village, not a part of them. I felt the same loneliness and sadness in my life. Gaara thought that you can only become the truly strongest if you fight for yourself, but that's not true. Sasuke had a hard time on what to think. Naruto spared Gaara because he was able to identify the burden he had, but what burden could he be talking about? What burden are you talking about? And how can you not become strong if you're fighting for yourself? Naruto debated on whether to tell Sasuke or not, but decided to tell him in the end. He might not trust the guy completely, but it was better to tell him now instead of accidentally discovering it in the future. Are you sure it's wise to tell him, Naruto? Naruto mentally nodded. I'm sure. Verbally, he said, I'll answer your question in reverse, Sasuke. The only way you can truly become strong is if you wish to protect someone you treasure. Sasuke frowned and asked, and what about the first question? Taking a deep breath, he calmed himself. He never thought that the first person he would be telling about Kurama would be Sasuke. What I'm about to tell you is still an S-rank secret, with only the Hokage allowed to speak about it. Never mind that almost every adult knows it anyways. Don't tell this to anyone. This is my secret, understand? Naruto pinned him with his cold, arctic stare. Sasuke was a bit surprised at how serious the blonde was being, but understood. S-rank secrets were no joke at all. As you may recall, 13 years ago, the Yondaime supposedly killed. Here, he made air quotes as to mock the point. The Kyuubi at the cost of his life. What about it? Sasuke asked impatiently. Naruto folded his arms. Biju are masses of chakra, and chakra is essentially energy. According to the law of conservation of energy, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but only transformed from one form to another. Sasuke's sharp mind linked the facts together, which means that Bijus can't be killed. Naruto nodded. So if the Kyuubi wasn't killed, where is it? Naruto pursed his lips and replied, inside me, sealed away. Sasuke's eyes widened at the revelation. No wonder Naruto was so strong, he thought with bitter jealousy coursing through him again. Why was he chosen to be entrusted power and not him? It would be foolish of someone to assume that you're Kyuubi, since sealing scroll doesn't become a kunai when a kunai is sealed inside of it, Sasuke said slowly, after getting his thoughts in order and regaining in his jealousy. Naruto nodded with a smile, happy that Sasuke hadn't immediately jumped to the conclusion. Then is it that QB that makes you so strong? Naruto frowned, not liking the insult at all. However, unintentional that was. As a matter of fact, no. I worked hard to reach where I am now, Sasuke. Also, you remember the feel of Gaara's chakra when you fought him, right? Then you should have no problem in imagining the reactions of villagers if Gaara would have been in the village. Sasuke slowly nodded, thinking it over. Naruto had access to such power, but aside from Wave, he never used it once. He then remembered the reaction of villagers when they looked at Naruto when he was small. The task of carrying such burden had made him hated by the villagers. Is that why you said that Gaara was like you? The Yondan was arguably the greatest seal master of his time, so there was no doubt that the seal he created to hold the Kyuubi was strong. Gaara, on the other hand, his seal was shoddy work, and wasn't able to completely take away the influence of his Biju. Admirably though, he was able to hold onto himself, and not without some damage. After I beat him, I told him there wasn't any reason to not have friends. I had some people that were close to me, but not Gaara. But by letting him go, I gave him another chance at making a better life for himself. I do hope he is better off now though.
Wanted a bitch who was on the move, but you on a goddamn late. Got that one in my bed and she just wanna sleep. Fucking up all of the sheets. She only wake up to eat. Do this shit every week. Like why you do that? Crying you wanna be great, but sleeping until the next day. Why you do that? Got that much in the bank. We go out, she order to stay.